wants to strap black people to this idea that they are victims. They like black people to be government dependent. They don't like to see black people that are free thinkers and are independent.
But I'm not begging to be accepted or acknowledged. I don't want that. At minimum, I want you the hell out of my way. And if that was what the bulk of the conversation was about, maybe I'd be on board. But that's not what it is. It's oh man, we're tired of this oppression, Mr. White Man. Please stop beating us, but also include us. What the fuck? No.
These riot / alleged protest live streams for about almost 100 nights now. And it's interesting. They seem to be replicated over the United States, and they all look the same. They all take notes from the Antifa organized group in Portland. And it's just very interesting how this is spreading like wildfire. It's this proxy warrior, proxy army situation where they're just pawns on the chessboard being used to create chaos and conflict. And of course, they always go back to the same old tactics of race bait, different forms of racial conflict, old wounds that have been part of the interracial experience of America since America has been America. And I understand why these things work, because there is a legacy of discontent, especially between races. In America, there is this history that has never been properly addressed. There has definitely been inequality and oppressive systems throughout the generations, of course. I would argue that America is a lot more freer and less oppressive today than it's ever been, mind you. But these things still exist under the skin, right? They're still under the skin. They haven't been healed per se. And they use those wounds, they use those sensitive subjects to rile up massive groups of people. And now you have this, this altruistic so-called liberal white so-called community that just wants to jump on board and save the black people. And it's just like, well, now you got your perfect proxy warrior group here. And they're really trying to stoke the flame to create I'd say a small scale or localized civil war.
I'm a young, black, rich. If that don't let you know that America understands black matter these days, I don't know what it is. Don't come at me with that dumb man.
Just thought that was weird shit. And I'm not no Black Lives Matter supporter. Like,
you're not?
Man, no, absolutely.
Why not?
Because it's not our movement. This is a movement that was given to us by, George Soros and his fucking boys. George Soros and Black Lives Matter. See what comes up.
Let's look it up.
Okay? Y'all out there, George Soros is a fucking multi-billionaire down with, some of the 12 richest people in the fucking
He raised
world.
$100 million.
Yep.
For the Black Lives Matter Coalition. The funding comes in addition to more than $33 million in grants from top Democratic Party donor George Soros.
We're living in a time of great social engineering. Okay? Now, if y'all don't know what social engineering is, go look it up. Like, there's people out there that know how to scientifically make society do what they want it to do, how they want it to be done.
We all know, and we've all read the reports about Antifa being dispersed to all of our communities and starting these riots. So why are celebrities so hinged on helping them get out of jail, seeing the devastation that they have caused to our communities?
I'll tell you what, I've been white for a long time, and for the most part, white people are lazy and easily frightened, and it's sad. It's sad. They won't stand up for themselves. So this whole thing is perfect. Watching these people bum rushing a sit-down outdoor restaurant, and the people that were sitting there were all white, and they freaked out. They were like, "Oh no, here it comes!" The protesters, quote unquote, are chanting and singing and knocking shit over and breaking stuff, but all the while saying, "White people, don't worry. We're not going to hurt you. We just want to, destroy this. It's our job, basically."
And to stop all the killing and all the shooting, wherever it might be. Because you cannot say Black Lives Matter and then kill yourselves.
racist. The racist is you. It's because that white guy killed that. You think they're racist. The racist, the Black Lives Matter. Go to Chicago. They don't have schools. And they die every day. They don't matter. Because you can get attention from that. Shut up. Shut up. Nobody will know the Black Lives Matter. Group of hypocrites. Go to Southeast DC, Northeast. Tell them Black Lives Matter. If it matters, it should matter everywhere. You guys are hypocrites. Attention seekers. Attention seekers. Black lives should matter everywhere. It doesn't take a white cop to kill a black person to matter. Everybody knows that black kills black more than anything. You know that.
When he personally doesn't see racism because so many of his fans are white.
I thought that was clearly a message that there was no such thing as racism.
There was a lot of backlash from people about that. Would you change it, what you said, or
No,
you still
not
feel
at
the same way? What's your thought on Black Lives Matter?
What is it? What do you mean?
The idea was that there's this movement called Black Lives Matter, thinking that the rest of America didn't seem to understand that Black Lives Matter.
It just sounds weird. I didn't know that you put a name on it. It's not a name. It's not whatever. It's somebody got shot by police for a reason. I am a young, black, rich. If that don't let you know that America understands Black matter these days, I don't know what it is. Don't come at me with that dumb man.
Long time coming. But tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America. Long time coming. But tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
The people that have a legitimate gripes that roll with Black Lives Matter, but they need to understand Black Lives Matter is funded better than most small cities. You know what I mean? They're getting serious bank from corporations. Why do you think that is? You know what I'm saying? They are a proxy army. You're absolutely right. The problem is, Jays, I want to say this right. I really do. The people that are in it for the outrage and the oppression and the fact that they grew up in a neighborhood where there is no jobs, there are only liquor stores, drugs from Colombia and other countries aplenty, guns, all that stuff are available. When they see stuff like on the news and they want to protest, it's awesome, but they have to understand all right, you know what? I can't even say it. How can you make them understand that they're in a proxy army that's being bankrolled big time?
Is dead. You say Black Lives Matter, her life matters. Police brutality, how about black brutality? There is real police brutality out there, I'll give you that. But night after night after night, murder, 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 murder. Black on black murder. You think the police are out here for fun? You think they're out here for games?
They do it for black people, right? Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. But you want to defund the police for black people. You're lying. No, we're not standing with Black Lives Matter. We want our police. Refund our police. Refund our police. Y'all don't care about black lives. Get the pay. Y'all don't care about black lives. Refund the police. Refund the police. They say Black Lives Matter. They say Black Lives Matter, right? These are people who live in public housing. And you just made a melee. You took down bus routes. There are people who live in this neighborhood who have to go back uptown to work. And you are here profiting off of our pain. So you protest every single last one of you. You think about what it's like to be a black woman in this neighborhood who lives with people in public housing, who now have to walk through, who bag your groceries, who drop off your food, who defends you, who go uptown to a hospital to serve his community.
See stuff like on the news and they want to protest, it's awesome, but they have to understand all right, you know what? I can't even say it. How can you make them understand that they're in a proxy army that's being bankrolled big time? Did I say any of that right, dude? If I didn't, say so.
You did, and I know where you're going with this. You're saying basically that there are portions of society that are moved emotionally by the things they're seeing, and they do actually have, to a degree, I'd say, reasonable or rational reason to feel this way and join in because maybe they've lived hard lives, they've lived in poverty, and they've been treated like an underclass their entire life, which possibly in many cases is generational. You know, maybe their parents and their parents and their parents were part of this, and it seems to be the systemic oppression that they've experienced. And of course, this is their experience. This isn't to say all blacks experience this. I myself have not experienced that, so I'm testament to that. But I'm still saying here that there are many people that feel this is something that needs to be fixed. So they join in because they think this movement, they think this so-called fight, this justice, social justice, is going to mitigate the situation they're in and change things for the better. Okay, fine. We're never going to escape that. Now the question is, how can we wake these people up to the point where they realize that they're being utilized, they're being used as this battering ram? Because that's pretty much what we're seeing here. BLM is a battering ram for the Great Reset.
That's a great analogy, brother.
And that's what I've been trying to do, man. You know, I've been trying to. Now again, we are men of God. We worship Christ. We definitely are on the side of Christianity, and we go by the will of the Most High God, of course. But this isn't to say we aren't flesh human beings in the world and need to play some type of role in the world, especially with those who are lost. So we have to reach out to non-Christians as well, right? And that's one thing I've been trying to do with political understandings, sociological understandings, trying to get exactly what you're asking here, trying to get people to see what's really going on here. And possibly once you see that this society, this world is corrupt, you can come to the truth, you can come to Christ, right?
Not a real thing. Because if it was, I could not have ever been successful because I'm black. People like Ben Carson could not be successful because they're black. And if anybody has an excuse for why they can't make it, it would be somebody like Ben Carson that literally started from the bottom, and he went from being in a low-income neighborhood to being a brain surgeon. Only in America does that happen, and only in America do we have the opportunities to rise to the top like none other. So before we blame other people and say, well, that's just your white privilege talking, and you don't understand real struggle, remember this. America is about honoring God and country. This key to getting to the top. That's the key to success. The difference is a financial status, not a racial one. So next time when you think about, well, let's make a racist issue out of this, think twice about what it really is and look for a logical explanation outside of race, because everything doesn't need a race card pulled.
Well said. Well said. Everything doesn't need a race card pulled. Yeah, there's plenty of corruption to go around. There's plenty of oppression to go around. You think my little white son has some sort of privilege? My parents worked their entire lives in this country, and they live in a trailer down the road from me. That's the privilege that my son comes from. In fact, you know, that's where they get the word redneck, is from Irish slaves. And that's what we are out here in the country, right? Rednecks. We come from the Irish slaves. That's my heritage. O'Donoghue. So it just makes me laugh out loud when people living in mansions like this. Me and my siblings and my parents, all of our houses, square footage, could probably fit inside Kamala Harris's mansion. That is her family wealth from owning slaves. Irish slaves.
To do how really just screaming from the rooftops as you've been doing, you know, trying to expose the truth, especially in ways that can break down this racial science, this race bait, this type of very systematic abuse that we're seeing with the propaganda, with the media. It's tough, man. But I'm going to tell you, they're being very successful here, because what you have here with this BLM thing is it's very multifaceted. And for any honest person who really wants to understand what's going on here, you have to walk into this with some empathy. And I think that's one thing that is lacking right now, especially in the right and in the conservative movements, and for good reason. People are upset. People are being pushed to the edge, and that's part of this. Part of this is to piss white people off. Part of this is to piss the right off, right? Part of this is to get the conservative population to act as they want them to act, to become racists, to become belligerent, racist, so-called Nazis. They want to push the conservative movement to that end. That's their goal. And it is working in many cases. You are seeing people they're beginning to have resentment towards all things so-called black. And this is part of the chessboard. And I think if we can go in with a little more empathy and try to accurately look at this thing historically and see, well, hey, there are actual issues that have never been dealt with, and now they're just being used as a weapon by the political and governmental machine, the Masonic board, and of course in cahoots with media. But overall, if we could just go in and understand that all these people aren't like paid Soros warriors, that some of this stuff has some semblance of authenticity. But overall, there is an aspect of it that is probably most influential, that's pretty much running the whole show, and that's these crazy paid agents and provocateurs, and these I call them psychopathic youth out here who are just, they're lost, they have nothing to live for, they're nihilistic, they're atheistic, and they want to see things burn. They want they want to watch society burn to crumbs. So you have a mixture of these crazy kids out here that have nothing to live for, and they're just angry at the world. They hate their parents. They hate their lives. They don't know what's the future is going to hold for them. This COVID thing has driven them to mental illness. So you have these crazy kids out in the streets, and then you have these paid provocateurs, and they're teaming up, and they are overpowering the genuine people that want social change. And I personally don't believe social change will ever happen, because I understand where this whole thing is going.
Though, is that I'm not racist. I don't have any desire to go burn her house down. I don't want her to pay me any reparations for what Hamilton Brown did or her family did. I just want to point out, I want to retain my freedom of speech and my constitutional rights. I would just like her not to enslave me. I'm not asking her to pay for the crimes of her family enslaving my family. I just want to point out that obviously it's not a skin color thing, because we have a woman of color who owned slaves from my lineage, my ethnicity. So I want to point out, one, it's not a skin color thing. And I want to point out that these people who have crafted this narrative that have driven so many people into mass hysteria and into mob of violence, the people who are inciting violence and trying to start race wars, that they're actually very disingenuous. It gets a little tiresome to be told by people who are billionaires and multimillionaires how I somehow had some entitled life. And I don't deny that racism exists. Racism exists against me. You know how many times I've heard this week that I should hate myself for being white? I get it. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. But before they decided to start the race riots, Americans elected a black president, our entire country. Okay, let's just go through a few. Let's take golf. Can a black person succeed at golf? Or a biracial black Asian person succeed in the United States of America? Oh yeah, they can rise all the way to the very top in America. I wonder about tennis. That's sort of a John McEnroe thing. I bet black people can't succeed in America at tennis. I bet they're really oh, that's right. Yeah, the richest people in tennis, the very top, are black in our country. I wonder how that happened with all this racism.
Check this out. In my videos, you guys see how I do videos. Some people have actually watched me make videos in the same room. I don't have a script. I just spit it, and that's it. And sometimes the barium, strontium, and aluminum and everything else we've been ingesting over the years kicks in, and I lose my train of thought. But in videos, I've tried to make sure I separate the fact that Black Lives Matter is completely funded by George Soros and Bill Gates and all those other people. No, it's not. There are legitimate problems, like I tried to explain before Days took the mic. The problem is You've got groomed, trained, well-funded, charismatic people that step into the leadership role that seem to know, line the barrels up in the middle of the street, set the fires over here, so forth, etc. It overshadows everything else. And I don't know if there's any way to reach them at this point, because every day this cabal that is pulling off this enormous hoax on humanity, they light another fire in this direction, or they go that way, or they go that way. I mean, they've got the media, they've got the mainstream, and they're taking us down one at a time, sometimes two at a time. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. I don't know what, if anything, we can do at this particular point. And now they're threatening to knock out the power. And as soon as they say that, we start seeing evidence of it in large places like California, because Cali's always the first one.
Yes, it's frustrating, man, especially with the youth. When you watch some of these live streams and you see some of the posts, especially on Twitter, there's a guy named Andy No who has really been keeping up with the, ear to the ground type of journalism that's going on with these Portland things. And it's just crazy, and it's frustrating, and I don't really think there's much we can do. I think this is just the system utilizing the misguided youth as a weapon. They are definitely being used as a massive weapon. I think the left in general is being used as a weapon to bring down the entire system. Now, this isn't to say conservatism is going to win out. That's not at all the case. Eventually everything is going to be crumbled, and we're going to be all forced to conform to the new normal, the new abnormal. But it seems to me that the left is being used in a type of unconventional warfare as a domestic terrorist organization. And it's interesting to see mainstream media lined up with this stuff. It's just they're so out in the open with it now.
Lockstep.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. It's just, oh man.
Do I got the right guy up here?
Yeah. He's a good source for up to date, play by play.
You don't have to give a disclaimer, brother. We need all the info we can get right now.
Definitely know that NBA stars are some of the richest people on the planet. So I bet certainly there aren't any black people in America who are allowed to. Oh, that's right. They're almost all of the richest people in the world in basketball are black people.
And I'm not no Black Lives Matter supporter.
You're not?
No, absolutely.
Why not?
Because it's not our movement. This is a movement that was given to us by, George Soros and his fucking boys. Google George Soros and Black Lives Matter. See what comes up.
Let's look it up.
Okay? Y'all out there, George Soros is a fucking multi-billionaire down with, some of the 12 richest people in the fucking
He raised
world.
$100 million.
Yep.
For the Black Lives Matter Coalition. The funding comes in addition to more than 33 million in grants from top Democratic Party donor George Soros.
We're living in a time of great social engineering. Okay? Now, if y'all don't know what social engineering is, go look it up.
Right? And, blue versus, black, and we're lost in the sauce, right?
You're on it, man. You're on it. You're absolutely on it. I have never seen society. I never thought society could be whipped into shape the way they are. They are being changed. And I mean, I'm going to drop this, but I want to bring it back in. I even had this up for this exact topic, and here we are on it without even talking to each other. This right here is the entered apprentice Mason. This is your people are taking the rights, whether they understand it or not, to be citizens of the New World Order. You know what I'm saying? And it's all laid out right here. And I can't help but notice that the person playing the president of the United States right now was the host of a show called The Apprentice. You know what I'm saying? I just can't let that one slide by, because if you read this link that I have up right now, it makes a lot of sense what's happening to people. They know there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to make the cut. People like myself, Mike Decker, and many, many others. We just can't do it. I can't contain my disgust for people wearing masks, even though I understand they're under a great delusion. But I don't know if I've asked you this before. I've asked you a lot of stuff. Before we jump back onto that link I had up on Amazon, that Kindle book by Klaus Schwab, that he wrote an entire book on the Great Reset, COVID-19, the Great Reset. So, I mean, we didn't know this was going to happen. We're just taking advantage of it. He explains in this book right here, that you can get on Amazon for $4, that COVID's nothing. It's not going to leave any mark on humanity, nothing like, Spanish flu, nothing like that. But it's a chance to restructure society in the world completely. The dude is one of the top dogs at the World Economic Forum and Bilderberg, and he wrote this book, and it's available on Amazon, and it literally says, basically, COVID's no big deal at all. It's just a great opportunity. They're telling you people. The CDC comes out the other day and goes, oh, yeah, people, remember that thing we were telling you about COVID that was going to kill everybody? It was the worst thing in the world, and blah, 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 blah. Well, 94% of the people that died, the Center for Disease Control, a privately owned company, came out and publicly stated 94% of the people that died were already really sick, meaning these people were sick and they died, and then we tagged them with COVID. And if you think that's just Richie from Boston or others telling you that, they've told you that. If they died of a pre-existing disease and we found out they had COVID, COVID it is. That's like a cop turning a B&E into a murder because he needs the stats. It's bullshit. It's wrong, and the sheep aren't seeing it. We talked before COVID broke out. You and I spoke about the externalization of the hierarchy, how back in 2019, it's like, wow, these dudes are just coming out with everything left and right. They don't seem to care. And then boom, COVID. It seems like they're at the point where they've got the sheep whipped into shape enough where they're actually telling them, by the way, there wasn't really a disease. We still got to give you a vaccine for your own good, for safety. But we got to change everything. No more borders, no more countries. We're going to defund the police. We've got our proxy enemies working on that to the point where you're actually asking us to get rid of the police, which will be perfect for our plan. Do you think, and I know you're a Christian man, I've heard you quote it, I know this for a fact, straight up, do you think that they literally did cast a spell?
Well, I think everything in opposition of the Most High God is a form of dark magic, is a form of a spell. Everything that is not of God is of Satan. So absolutely, I think the only way Satan really controls human beings, or at least the flesh, or in the way he entices the flesh and entices man to act in his will, is through different forms of spells and magic incantations and symbology and all of these different things.
Going to happen. I really believe that there's something very good going to happen. We have to get back. So think of it, in this horrible period, this horrible dark period where this monster came and worked its horrible spell over the world. 184 countries as of this morning. 184 countries. Something good going to happen. I really believe that. There's something very good going to happen. We have to get back. So think of it, in this horrible period, this horrible dark period where this monster came and worked its horrible spell over the world. 184 countries.
Masonry is a perfect example of this. I mean, look at all of the imagery, look at all the symbols, look at all of the rituals. I mean, all of this plays a role. We could look at the way the American governmental infrastructure is designed. It's literally designed with satanic symbology.
Now is show you that right at the end of the concert, the final act closed with a moving performance of a song called We Will Rise, written about the coronavirus pandemic in the Pacific and performed by the Pacifica Voices and the international school Suva. Sung primarily by children and youth, the heartwarming lyrics concluded on a note of hope. That's what they call it, a note of hope. Around the world, we're closing borders. COVID-19 is on the rise. A new world order behind closed doors. The storm will pass and we will survive. We will rise again, and so on. I'm going to show you the video of that musical performance. It is so full of Freemasonry and all-seeing eye, basically illuminist propaganda, big time. Well, straight away there you should see a pentagram, pretty obvious in the shape, and an eye, very strongly Masonic symbol, and of course also found in witchcraft. And then now we have somebody saluting the UN, presumably a soldier or whatever. So you should be able to clearly see the development of an eye in the stadium here, and then listen to the words new beginnings and changing our lifestyles. So that basically, it's propaganda for the phoenix will rise, that type of thing. Very, very much illuminist symbolism. Then you have the typical rise up and unite, the sheep all getting everyone into the hive mind mentality.
Masonry is a perfect example of this. I mean, look at all of the imagery, look at all the symbols, look at all of the rituals. I mean, all of this plays a role. We could look at the way the American governmental infrastructure is designed. It's literally designed with satanic symbology. So absolutely, I think
everywhere. I mean,
everywhere.
They've got carved in stone, dude.
Yes. So again,
it's amazing. I don't mean. It's amazing that most Americans don't question the obelisks all over the United States.
Yes. And
they just go, wow, look at that. That's from Egypt. Yeah, but why is it here? Is his story that we're from Egypt originally? I mean, it's a trip, man. It's a trip.
Yes, it goes right back to Egypt, Babylon, Rome. Right? All of these things have never really left. They've kind of always been here. And of course, there's the argument of America's a Christian country. No. We've never been a Christian country as far as the forefathers are concerned. Now, our culture, the people have definitely been influenced by, I'd say, arguably a Christian ethic, right? We have an ethic, an American ethic that is inherently Christian. Yes, that aspect I think is very true. I mean, where did Protestantism get its true growth and development? Right here in America, right? We can look at many different historical eras where theology really took or at least really developed here in America. So there is a strong Christian component to America, but if we're going to talk about the country in the eyes of the forefathers, its development, its scientific experiment, of course not. This isn't a cultic, Masonic, I would say satanic type of or organized power here. And in many ways, America is an idea, but it's also a culture. It's also a group of people. It's generations. It has a history. It has a legacy. It even has intermixed and interwoven genetic lineage, right? So it's a very interesting and complex and convoluted story here in America. But if you're going to discuss it, you have to really address all of these different aspects of it, right? But again, if we're going to look at the forest here, yes, this is all a spell. This is all a massive, exaggerated magic spell here.
Soros and Black Lives Matter. See what comes up.
Let's look it up.
Okay. Y'all out there, George Soros is a fucking multi-billionaire down with, you know, some of the 12 richest people in the fucking
He raised
world.
$100 million.
Yep.
For the Black Lives Matter Coalition. The funding comes in addition to more than 33 million in grants from top Democratic Party donor George Soros.
We're living in a time of great social engineering. in a time of great social engineering. Okay? Now, if y'all don't know what social engineering is, go look it up. Like, there's people out there that know how to scientifically make society do what they want it to do, how they want it to be done.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
Biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
So, I mean, it's not even about protest. They're not like trying to protest. They're actually rounding people up. They're saying, you are not allowed in this area anymore. And these people are oblivious. I hope this wakes them up because this is in New York. In what, Rochester? So, you know, they voted for these liberals who promote this stuff.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
We're living in a time of great social engineering. Okay? Now, if y'all don't know what social engineering is, go look it up, okay? Now, if y'all don't know what social engineering is, go look it up.